The biggest trade trip of the 2025 trade deadline has officially been moved. Eugenio Suarez is going back to the Seattle Mariners. That's right. The second trade in the past week between the Mariners and the Diamondbacks has occurred as the Mariners now solidify the last big weakness they had at third base by bringing back their former player who they traded away before the 2024 season to Arizona. And as a member of the last team that made the playoffs for Seattle in 2022, the Mariners are hoping that he can bring some of that playoff magic back and hopefully make it farther into the playoffs than they did in 2022 as well. Having an absolutely monster year so far, the Diamondbacks are excited to get players back for an expiring contract and someone who a lot of people thought was going to be the most expensive person traded. I'll let you determine that based on the contents of this video and some of my other ones and all the other trades that have gone down. But the asking price for Suarez was high, and the Mariners definitely did have to pay up a little bit. In this video, we'll dive into this trade, which might be the biggest one, especially for a position player this trade deadline, talk about all the players involved, and give you some gut reaction trade grades for each team. If you like this kind of content, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button. It'll get you more content for all of the trades that are happening this deadline, and it'll get you more baseball content, not only from me, but from other awesome YouTube accounts out there as well. Without further ado, let's dive into the Eugenio Suarez trade that just dropped about 5 minutes ago. It's the time I'm recording this. Eugenio Suarez was widely regarded as the most desirable piece at the 2025 deadline. Jhoan Duran might have rivaled him for that, but there's still a lot of questions before he actually got traded if he would be traded. So Suarez is now the key piece, especially offensively, that is being traded this deadline. The Mariners are familiar with Suarez as he was on their team in 2022 and 2023, putting together a combined 6.5 WAR between those two seasons. Definitely a very solid contributor, playing third base throughout all of them. Suarez this year, though, is having a career year. He leads all of the major leagues with 87 RBIs already through 105 games, 3.3 BWAR, and he really is just dominating. His slash line of 248, 321, 577 is incredibly impressive, leading to an OPS just shy of 900 and a 143 OPS plus. He strikes out a lot. He has 116 strikeouts. He's led the league in strikeouts twice and once all for the major leagues, but that hasn't stopped him from absolutely mashing the ball. 36 home runs is nearly a career high. He hit 49 in 2019 with Cincinnati, but he is right on that tail. And with Cal Raleigh in the lineup as well, Mariners are going to have a lot of balls fly out of T-Mobile Park in the coming days. As I mentioned earlier, Suarez is an impending free agent, so the Mariners will only have his services for half of a season, but that should be more than enough. If they're looking to make a run now, they want to go all in now. The same for Josh Naylor, so they have two expiring contracts at their corner infield, ironically both from the same team they acquired them from. So the Mariners, who do have a competitive window beyond this, want to make sure 2025 is a year that they feel like they have a chance, might as well go in, and we'll see how that impacts their competitive window going forward. The Mariners had identified third base as their weakest position heading into the trade deadline, and they knew really before anything that corner infield was their weakest position at first base and at third, and they decided to upgrade both of those positions. And with top prospect Tyler Locklear likely now going to get sent down after being called up just within the past couple of days, they now have a very solidified corner infield presence at both third and first going forward. With today's edition of Caleb Ferguson securing the back end of the bullpen alongside Andres Munoz, Matt Brash, and Eduardo Bizardo, and their incredibly stellar pitching rotation of Brian Wu, George Kirby, Logan Gilbert, Luis Castillo, and Bryce Miller might make an appearance before the postseason's over too. The Mariners are a team that I would be scared to face in October. The addition of Eugenio Suarez makes a potent lineup even stronger, and I think the Mariners are definitely a team to watch out for. In return for Suarez's services, the Mariners gave up 3 prospects, 2 pitchers, and an infielder. Of course, that first baseman heading back in that deal is that former top prospect that I referred to in Tyler Locklear, who just got called up a few days ago, but now will be having to find another home in Arizona, and frankly, he'll probably be on the Major League roster there playing first base for them going forward. Locklear was the second-round pick of the Mariners in the 2022 draft out of VCU, and he set the single-season record for Virginia Commonwealth with 20 home runs as a junior and tied the program's all-time record with 37 after he got drafted as a junior. So he could have easily broken it should he stayed another year. He's done very well all throughout the minor leagues, and he has absolutely raked so far in 2025 at AAA. He has a 316, 401, 542 slash line, good for a 943 OPS. He's bashed 19 home runs already, stolen 18 bags, and though he has struck out 95 times in 373 plate appearances, that is definitely a huge potential to be a big power, big hit guy. Scouts don't necessarily see him as a guy who's going to hit for a huge average, but maybe his performance so far in 2025 at AAA Tacoma suggests otherwise. There's still a lot of variability. He's 24, so he's relatively old for a prospect, but Baseball America thinks that hit tool is actually above average, while MLB Pipeline thinks it's a little bit below average. Granted, Pipeline's a little bit more out of date, so that might have changed, but Locklear is a very interesting player with good hit tool, good power, and although he is most likely limited at to be a first baseman, he's transitioned there full time. He did come in as a third baseman, and if he really needed to, you could probably throw him at third base and wouldn't see great results, but it'd be good enough. One of the two pitching prospects heading back to Arizona is someone who can help relatively soon in Juan Burgos, who has already made his major league debut this season in 2025. He's pitched in 4 games at the major league level, a 4.05 ERA across 6 2/3 innings pitched. He's allowed 7 hits, struck out 8, walked 2, good for 1.35 walks and hits per innings pitched. But his stats in the minor leagues are much more impressive. He spent almost the entire season in AA, 21 games, 28 innings pitched, a 2-1 record, a .64 ERA, astronomically low, with 29 strikeouts across 28 innings pitched. He's got 3 big pitches. The fastball is definitely his best, and a slider and cutter that go along and complement that decently well. The pitch mix is good enough to be a starter, but the Mariners have been deploying him mostly as a reliever for basically his entire career. At 25, he's likely to stick there long term as well. Because of his unique pitch delivery, it's really almost like a sidearm, and the fact that he's able to work his pitches all throughout the strike zone, batters have to be careful and have to be ready to defend basically the entire strike zone. Although he isn't someone who is able to command his pitches very well. So he's able to have them be effective if they do locate well within the strike zone, but when they don't locate, they can be punished pretty easily. At 6 foot 155, there's still a little bit of strength that he could potentially add onto his frame. Maybe bulk up, maybe throw a little bit harder. But at 25, that's about pushing prospect status, and that's about what I'd expect out of Burgos long term. I wouldn't expect him to be anything more than a low leverage reliever at the major league level. Maybe someone who could be a sixth, seventh inning guy at the very best, but he just doesn't have the stuff and the pure strikeout potential to really go ahead and be a nice, solid closer or setup man. Juan Burgos currently sits at number 25 on Baseball America's list, and he started off as the number 17 prospect on the Mariners system, according to MLB Pipeline this season. And frankly, for signing him for only $12,000 in the 2019 signing class, it's definitely a solid get for the Mariners in terms of not only getting someone who you developed, but also trading away for a huge asset. The final player heading to Arizona is Hunter Cranton, who is a 2024 third round pick, which makes you think like he's relatively young, but he's actually 24 and is going to be 25 in just a couple months. He was a college senior, and you rarely see teams pick college seniors in the top 10 rounds. Generally, it's to save money because the way the baseball draft works is instead of drafting a guy and you pay him approximately a certain amount of money, for the first 10 rounds, you're basically able to pay someone however much they want as long as it's in a pool, and your pool is determined by the pick that you actually get. So the first pick might be worth $11 million, the 10th pick might be worth 7, etc., etc. Cranton in the third round signed for only $50,000, so the Mariners were looking to spread money elsewhere and get some higher paying guys who needed a bigger bonus to sign. However, they've been pleasantly surprised with what they got, and it turns out that he has a killer fastball. He's touched triple digits before, and that was part of the appeal of drafting him so high, is as you have now a plus pitch, one of the best fastballs in all the minor leagues, you can start to build around, even if he is on the older side. 6'3", 215, he's probably hit his limit in terms of filling out the body, but he made his debut at Single A Modesto in 2024, and has since jumped to High A Everett, and has done very well this year across just 8 games, 8 innings pitched, 11 strikeouts, just 3 walks, to a 2-0 record and a 1.13 ERA. Definitely, he has the makings of a big league reliever if he can go ahead and keep both those pitches afloat, stay healthy, and control them as well as he can. He's got decent control for that, but with a 2-pitch mix, he really is just refined down to someone who's basically just a reliever. Now that we've talked about all the players in this deal, and there are a lot of really good ones, let's go ahead and give grades to each of these teams. We'll start with the Diamondbacks, and I'm going to give them a B-. There were initial reports of Ryan Sloan and Jurrangelo Cijntje being the 2 pitchers in return, which would have made this a very easy A+. But I don't hate the players they got back. I don't think either of them are super high upside in terms of the pitchers in this deal. Cranton started the year 16th on MLB Pipeline's list. I don't see him being any higher than that ever, really. I honestly see him falling a little bit. He's not on Baseball America's top 30 list, which, if I had to guess, is because A, they have just such a slew of really great pitching prospects, and B, he's kind of old. He's about to be 25 at the end of the season, and that is old for a prospect, frankly, especially one still in single A. So when MLB Pipeline does do their big update, they did a little small one of moving some of the players that like really needed to be moved. But when they do that big update, I would expect him to fall a little bit. He hasn't fallen below 26 because they moved everyone up or down at least 10 spots. But I would not expect him to be as high as 16th on this list when the re-rank does end up coming up. But given the fact that he is older, I do like that he probably has a little more proximity to the big leagues, and he's done really well at these lower levels. Across 2025, an ERA below 1 from both levels because he did pitch a little bit in rookie ball, which he really should have dominated, and he did as he rehabbed an injury. So it makes sense. There's some value there. On the other side, I think Juan Burgos is another solid piece, but also doesn't provide a ton of upside. He's someone who's most likely just going to be a middle to low leverage reliever, and I don't know if that's really moving the needle. So, in my eyes, you really have two back end bullpen pieces for Tyler Locklear. And when I look at Locklear, I see someone who was a former top 100 prospect and is someone who is really interesting long term. But I don't know. It just doesn't feel right. And maybe that's because I'm biased because I went in thinking they got a huge haul when they actually didn't. But I do like that they're looking towards the immediate future, as Burgos and Locklear will definitely make an impact in 2026, and Cranton honestly probably will too at the very least. And then for the Mariners, I'll give this a solid A. I think this is a very good trade. You're getting two players who I don't think really had a spot in Seattle long term as middle leverage relievers, and trade them away. Locklear definitely seemed like he could be the first baseman of the future for the Mariners, but I know a lot of Mariners fans weren't necessarily super excited about having him man first base. There's still a ton of potential there, and he is going to be someone who could hit for 20 plus home runs. And with Cal Raleigh, you have a home run bat, and with Eugenio Suarez, you have another, but that's only for the end of this year. Locklear could have been a nice 5-6 hole hitter and really been a solid presence in a Mariners lineup. That's my own personal opinion. I think a lot of his value lies in his bat, and that's fine for a first baseman. So we'll see long term. I think he fits well with what the Diamondbacks need right now because they needed a first baseman. So there's that right there. But I just really think this is a great deal for the Mariners. I don't think they gave up a ton when you're seeing, especially in the reliever market, a ton go for rental players. I'm thinking about what the Mets gave up for Rogers. There's just a lot of really hefty deals. I think the Mariners made out really well for someone who was most deservedly an all-star and is one of the best players in the National League, now the American League, in 2025. And thank you for getting to the end of the video. This was a fun trade to break down, so I hope you enjoyed it, and make sure to hit that subscribe button if you made it all the way to the end. Let me know who you think won this trade down in the comments, and I am excited to see you in the very next video as we break down even more crazy trades at the 2025 MLB Trade Deadline.